It was the day after Christmas in Boulder, Colorado. The festive cheer of the holiday season was beginning to wane, replaced by the quiet stillness of a winter morning. Little did anyone know, this day would shatter the peace of this idyllic town forever. The Ramsey family's Tudor home was quiet, a stately residence nestled amongst the snow-covered lawns. It appeared to be a picture of domestic tranquility, a haven from the winter chill. But behind the facade of warmth and comfort, something was terribly wrong. An unsettling darkness had crept into the Ramsey household, a harbinger of unimaginable tragedy. A little girl, JonBenét Ramsey, was missing. The 6-year-old beauty queen had vanished, leaving behind an empty bed and a chilling void in the hearts of her family. The nation would soon be haunted by her story, a mystery with no ending. JonBenét's disappearance would become a media sensation, captivating the world with its perplexing details and unanswered questions. December 26, 1996, a date etched in infamy, a day that would forever be associated with loss, suspicion, and the haunting specter of an unsolved crime. Patsy Ramsey called 911 frantic, her voice trembling with fear and desperation as she reported her daughter's abduction. She reported her daughter kidnapped and a strange ransom note left behind. A note filled with bizarre demands and unsettling language, fueling the initial belief that JonBenet had been taken by an outside intruder. Police arrived to chaos, a scene of frantic activity and mounting anxiety as officers swarmed the Ramsey residence, their flashing lights cutting through the winter gloom. Friends and family moving through the house, offering support and searching for any sign of JonBenet, inadvertently disrupting the integrity of the crime scene, contaminating what should have been a protected crime scene. Vital clues were potentially lost or compromised in the midst of the well-intentioned, but ultimately detrimental activity. The house became a stage for confusion, a whirlwind of activity that obscured the truth and complicated the investigation from the very beginning. The script senseless. The initial hours of the investigation were marred by missteps and oversights, setting the stage for the years of uncertainty and speculation that would follow. Was it a kidnapping gone wrong? A desperate act by an unknown assailant who had infiltrated the Ramsey home? Or something darker within the home's walls? A sinister secret lurking beneath the surface of a seemingly perfect family? A truth that threatened to shatter everything they held dear? The case became a labyrinth, a tangled web of conflicting evidence, questionable leads, and a cast of characters with secrets to protect. Clues that led nowhere, frustrating investigators and deepening the mystery surrounding JonBenet's death. Theories that crumbled, unable to withstand the scrutiny of forensic analysis and the relentless pursuit of the truth. A family portrait cracked in two. The image of the Ramsey family, once a symbol of success and happiness, was forever tarnished by the tragedy that had befallen them. Missing evidence, confusion, a series of missteps that hampered the investigation and allowed crucial details to slip through the cracks. And a story that would never quite add up. The pieces of the puzzle simply refused to fit together, leaving investigators and the public alike with a lingering sense of unease and frustration. We look back decades later, still grappling with the unanswered questions and the enduring mystery of JonBenet's fate, sifting through evidence and interviews, meticulously examining every detail in the hope of uncovering a new lead or a forgotten clue, trying to piece together JonBenet's final hours, to reconstruct the events that led to her tragic death and finally bring closure to this long-standing mystery. The story began in a world of beauty and privilege, a life of pageants, parties, and the trappings of wealth, but ended in a cold, dark basement, a stark and brutal contrast that underscores the tragic loss of innocence and the devastating consequences of violence. The journey between those points is a twisted path of deception, misdirection, and unanswered questions, shadows and whispers, secrets that have been carefully guarded, truths that have been deliberately obscured, and a lingering sense of mystery that continues to haunt the investigation. Somewhere in those shadows, the truth remains hidden, waiting to be brought to light. A killer has remained hidden, evading justice for far too long. The JonBenét Ramsey case is one of America's most notorious unsolved mysteries, a tragedy that continues to fascinate and perplex the public. It's a puzzle with missing pieces, a frustratingly incomplete picture that leaves us yearning for resolution, a ghost story that refuses to fade, a constant reminder of the fragility of life and the enduring power of unsolved mysteries. And the question still echoes, across the years, across the miles, across the hearts of those who remember JonBenet. What really happened in that house? What secrets are still hidden within those walls, waiting to be revealed? JonBenét Ramsey was born into comfort and high expectations. Her father John was a successful businessman, her mother Patsy a former beauty queen. JonBenét was their little star, dazzling on the child beauty pageant circuit. From the outside, the Ramseys seemed to embody the American dream. Their son Burke completed the family and holidays were celebrated with gusto. Christmas 1996 was no different. Decorations, presents, and a party with friends. John carried a sleepy JonBenét to bed thinking it was just another happy Christmas. But after her death, the pageant photos became a media obsession, raising questions about her public life. The family's perfect image was shattered, every detail scrutinized for clues. No one imagined this privileged world would be torn apart by tragedy. JonBenét's name would become synonymous not with beauty, but with a brutal, baffling crime. The first hint of light barely touched the horizon. The world outside was still cloaked in the deep, quiet darkness of early morning. Inside the Ramsey household, the stillness was about to be irrevocably shattered. At 5:52 a.m., Patsy Ramsey's frantic 911 call ripped through the morning calm, a desperate plea cutting through the silence. Her voice, laced with panic and disbelief, would become a haunting echo in the days and years to come. Her daughter, JonBenet, was missing, vanished into the pre-dawn hours. A chilling ransom note lay in its place, a bizarre and unsettling document that hinted at a sinister plot. The scene was set for a parent's worst nightmare. Within minutes, police cars descended on the Ramsey home, their flashing lights painting the quiet street in an urgent, unsettling glow. But even before the authorities could fully assess the situation, the house was already filling with friends and family, drawn by the unfolding tragedy. The crime scene was quickly compromised, the delicate threads of evidence tangled and obscured by well-meaning but ultimately detrimental actions. The initial chaos made the work of investigators infinitely more difficult. Officer Rick French, one of the first on the scene, immediately noticed the strange, lengthy ransom note. Its unusual language and specific demands raised immediate questions, but the urgency of the situation overshadowed a careful analysis. In the midst of the confusion, a critical error was made. The house was not properly secured, allowing for further contamination of what would become a pivotal crime scene. Friends and neighbors, their hearts aching for the Ramseys, rushed to offer comfort and support, a natural reaction in the face of such unimaginable horror. In their eagerness to help, some even began cleaning the kitchen, unknowingly destroying potential evidence that could have been crucial to the investigation. The initial focus of the investigation was squarely on kidnapping, the assumption being that JonBenet had been abducted from her bed in the dead of night. The ransom note demanded a precise sum, $118,000, a seemingly arbitrary number that would later become a significant point of interest. The amount was eerily close to John's recent bonus, a detail that immediately raised suspicions and added another layer of complexity to the already perplexing case. The note contained a stern warning, explicitly instructing the Ramseys not to contact the police, a common tactic in kidnapping cases. But Patsy, in her desperate attempt to save her daughter, had already defied that order, placing the frantic 911 call that set the investigation in motion. Police waited, their lines open, for the kidnapper's call, the call that would provide instructions for the ransom drop, and hopefully, lead to JonBenet's safe return. But the call never came. As the hours ticked by, each one an agonizing eternity, hope began to fade, replaced by a gnawing sense of dread. The house was full of people, a chaotic mix of concern and confusion, but answers were few and far between. The investigation was quickly becoming mired in uncertainty. Police had conducted an initial search of the home, focusing on the obvious areas, looking for any sign of forced entry or a clue to JonBenet's whereabouts. But in their initial sweep, they missed a crucial basement door, a seemingly insignificant detail that would have devastating consequences. The little girl was not in her bed, her room a silent testament to her sudden and inexplicable disappearance. And with every passing minute the dread grew, a heavy weight pressing down on everyone in the house. The clock ticked on, each second amplifying the growing sense of despair. Where was JonBenet? The question hung in the air, unanswered and terrifying. The answer, tragically, was closer than anyone realized, hidden within the walls of their own home. The morning's chaos, the compromised crime scene, the missed clues, all of it would haunt the investigation for years to come, a constant reminder of the opportunities lost. Irreplaceable evidence was lost, swept away in the initial frenzy of activity, making the already difficult task of finding the truth even more challenging. And with each passing hour, the truth became harder and harder to find, buried beneath layers of confusion, speculation, and irreversible mistakes. The tragedy was set in motion by those first frantic hours, a chain of events that would forever alter the lives of everyone involved. The search for JonBenet was about to take a devastating turn, a discovery that would shatter the family's hope and plunge the investigation into unimaginable darkness. The ransom note was bizarre, a strange and unsettling document that would become central to the investigation. Its very existence raised questions. It stretched on for nearly 3 pages, a lengthy and detailed message penned on the Ramseys' own notepad, using their own pen. The fact that the kidnapper, if it was indeed a kidnapper, would use the family's own supplies was peculiar. It demanded a precise sum of $118,000, an amount that eerily echoed John's recent bonus. This detail immediately suggested a possible inside connection, someone familiar with the family's finances. The language used was equally strange, filled with movie-like phrases and riddled with odd grammar. It didn't read like a typical ransom demand, it felt almost performative. The investigators couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Would a real kidnapper really spend so long inside the house, taking the time to write such a lengthy note, using the family's own supplies so brazenly? The note felt staged, almost as if it were intended for an audience. It felt deeply personal, yet also theatrical, like a scene from a poorly written play. By afternoon, the tension in the house was palpable. The authorities were on edge, waiting for the call from the kidnappers that never came. Detective Arndt, growing increasingly concerned by the lack of contact, asked John Ramsey to conduct another search of the house, hoping to find some clue, some sign of JonBenet. John, accompanied by family friend Fleet White, reluctantly agreed. They made their way to the basement, a dark and unfinished space beneath the Ramsey home. There, in the depths of the basement, they opened a small, previously overlooked door, revealing a hidden room. There, on the cold, hard floor of that hidden room, was JonBenet. Her small body was wrapped in a white blanket, a stark and unsettling image. She was not hidden well, not concealed in any meaningful way. She was simply there, no longer alive. She was gone. A piece of duct tape covered her mouth, a grim and silent testament to the horror she had endured. A nylon cord was tightly wound around her neck, a clear indication of the violence she had suffered, and her wrists were loosely bound, suggesting a struggle, a desperate attempt to break free. The garrote, the instrument of her death, was chillingly familiar. It was made from one of Patsy's paintbrushes, a common household item turned into a deadly weapon. Overcome with shock and grief, John scooped her up into his arms and carried her upstairs, back into the main part of the house. In his distraught state, he inadvertently further disturbed the crime scene, unknowingly compromising crucial evidence. The discovery of JonBenet's body instantly shifted the focus of the case, transforming it from a kidnapping investigation into a full-blown murder inquiry. The crime scene, already potentially compromised by the initial search, was now hopelessly contaminated, making the task of gathering reliable evidence even more difficult. The evidence, already fragile and easily disturbed, was now slipping away, threatening to vanish altogether. The tragedy deepened with each passing moment, and the mystery surrounding JonBenet's death only continued to grow more complex and perplexing. The search for answers, for justice, for the truth about what happened to JonBenet Ramsey had only just begun. JonBenet's body in the basement changed everything. This was now a murder investigation. The wine cellar, a small windowless room, became the focus. The autopsy revealed asphyxiation by strangulation and a massive skull fracture. The violence was shocking, especially against a child. Key evidence included the garrote, duct tape, blanket, and unidentified male DNA on her clothing. This DNA didn't match any family member, fueling the intruder theory. Yet, other clues pointed inward: a bowl of pineapple JonBenet had eaten, Burke's fingerprints on the bowl, and a broken basement window. The window's spiderweb and undisturbed grate cast doubt on the intruder theory. The scene was a tangle of conflicting clues. The truth was buried beneath layers of confusion. The unidentified male DNA is the strongest support for the intruder theory, but how could a stranger enter a locked house, commit the crime, and vanish without a trace? The broken basement window was small and undisturbed, with a spiderweb intact. No footprints in the snow, no clear entry or exit. Suspects like Michael Helgoth, Gary Oliva, and John Mark Carr were investigated, but none matched the DNA. The intruder theory is chilling, but the evidence is thin and contradictory. The phantom remains just that, a ghost in the story. Suspicion quickly turned to the Ramseys, common in cases with no forced entry. Their actions, calling friends, contaminating the scene, and the odd ransom note, raised red flags. Some experts believed Patsy wrote the note, others pointed to Burke, theorizing a tragic accident covered up by the parents. Theories swirled: a bedwetting incident, a fight over pineapple, a desperate cover-up. The family always denied involvement, insisting an intruder was responsible. In 2008, DNA evidence led to their public exoneration, but doubts lingered. The Ramseys' cooperation with police was questioned, and suspicion never fully lifted. The case became a battle of theories with no clear answers. The JonBenet case became a media sensation. Pageant photos, a wealthy family, a shocking crime. The public judged the Ramseys' lifestyle and grief, often ignoring the facts. Sensational coverage blurred truth and rumor, making it hard to separate fact from speculation. The family lost their privacy, hounded by reporters and public scrutiny. Patsy faced harsh criticism, her every emotion dissected. The media's relentless focus shaped the investigation and public opinion. The Ramseys eventually left Colorado, but the story followed them. Patsy died in 2006, never seeing justice for her daughter. The case became a national obsession, a debate over parenting, wealth, and justice. The media glare ensured the story would never fade. Decades later, JonBenet's murder remains unsolved, a cold case, but never forgotten. Advances in DNA technology have offered hope, but no breakthrough. The case endures because of its tragedy, its puzzles, and its endless theories. For the Ramseys, the shadow is permanent. John advocates for new testing. Burke lives under suspicion. The family portrait was shattered, never repaired. The unresolved crime means no closure, only the weight of what happened. JonBenet remains frozen in time, a symbol of a mystery that captivates and frustrates. The story warns of justice delayed, media power, and hidden secrets. Until a killer is found, the questions remain. The silence is the most haunting part of all.